Theresa. Welcome back. My name is Theresa and I'm very much alive. I have an awful, garbage, filthy mouth where sometimes, just sometimes, I tend to use the word fuck as a comma. It's adorable. If you're not into that or weird stuff in general, this is definitely not the place for you. Feel free to exit out the video here. No harm, no foul. But I'll remember our time fondly. Hello, my little dumplings. I'm super excited about today's video. We have another fun size review, and this one's a little bit different because it's all about influencer makeup. Whether it's a collab or an influencer brand, we have a lot to talk about. So without further ado, let's talk about Makiage. If you have been living under a rock lately, Makiage has recently collaborated with the wonderful, beautiful Curly Bible. And when this first came out, I was like, oh, okay, like, all right, whatever. And then I saw the close-ups in the pan and I lost my mind. It also didn't help that I was drunk, but that's neither here or there at this point. So my fat little stubby fingers clicked add to cart, and next thing you know, I paid $162 for this collection. I don't know how it happened. I know how it happened. What can I say? Ignorance is bliss. Anyway, let's talk about this collection. Moonstruck Palette. Get a stellar look with Carly Bible Moonstruck Face Shaping Palette, starring Carly's personal favorite, including 4 makeup must-haves in one set: matte bronzer, baked blush, and 2 pearlescent highlighters for a glow from the gods. When I first tried this palette, I was like, no, fuck this thing. I didn't think it looked nice on my skin, and I was ready to write it off. Now, I have tried this palette several times since then, and this is actually pretty good. And it really goes to show that sometimes your face can just be fucked up. So you shouldn't write off something immediately. Maybe your skin is acting like a shitty teenager who doesn't understand why she can't have the door closed when she is studying with her boyfriend, okay? When I first tried the product, I didn't like the bronzer. I found it to be very difficult to blend. And the blush was all right, nothing to write home about. And the highlighters didn't do much for me. So like I said, I was ready to shoot this shit off into space. Then I tried it again and again and again and again and again. The bronzer's really fucking nice. My only complaint is that it's on the warm side. If this was a more neutral or cool tone bronzer, bitch, I think I might have found one of my new favorite things. But alas, it's warm. Not my favorite. I like that the formula is very pigmented, but it blends easily. So even if you do go ham, you can soften it out. I also found that this product had excellent longevity. While it's a matte bronzer, it doesn't fall flat on my face. I wouldn't say it had a sheen to it, but I guess let's call it a more of a natural finish. The blush is great as well. Again, another matte product that's incredibly pigmented, so you don't need to go ham and build up the product. A little bit does go a long way. But again, if you do go heavy, you can blend it out, which is really nice. And I love that it blends beautifully with the bronzer and the highlighter. Now, my complaint with the blush is the color. I like pink blushes, but I think there's a time and place to look like a haunted doll. And this is like a vividly cool tone blush that I don't know if a lot of people can really pull off. So again, kind of gives me haunted doll vibes, but I do like it because I could kind of sheer it out to be, you know, maybe like a Campbell Soup kid as opposed to a fucking Annabelle doll. I really wish it was more of a warm tone pink. Now the highlighters in this, bitch, okay, fuck me up. The highlighter is Alien Slut approved. And based on that, that's what makes this palette worth it in my opinion. So there are 2 formulas in this palette. You have a baked highlighter and then you have a powder highlighter. I will buy every highlighter in that baked formula. The formula is so motherfucking blinding. It's Alien Slut Goals. There is a little bit of sparkle in the formula that is different from the powder highlighter, but it didn't emphasize any texture or any kind of like glitter bukkake, nothing. Like it just looks so beautifully seamless on the skin. The powder highlighter, again, also very, very slutty. I don't think it's as blinding as the baked highlighter. However, for today, I actually used both products together. It's so good. It's good. This part of the palette will be going into the casket with me for sure. I love how the formula for both sides adhere to the skin so beautifully. And again, much like the other products, it just melted so beautifully into the skin. Everything just looks so seamless and airbrushed. It's absolutely stunning. I think the most significant negative I have about this palette is the shade range. And I say that because if you are uncooked chicken like myself, if you are a fair skin monster, or if you have light or medium skin tones, I think you can find something within these palettes. Now, there are 3 different palettes. You have a light, medium, and deep. But based on the photos, I don't know if the deepest palette is really all that deep. So I don't know if this product is super inclusive in that way. And I say that because when I think of face palettes, I think of like the end all be all of face palettes. And for me, that's Midas Cosmetics. That face palette has 4 different variants and it literally has something for everyone. So when I look at that palette compared to a lot of the face palettes on the market, I feel like shade range wise, it doesn't really come close. So if you are somebody that has deeper skin, I kind of would recommend looking at the Midas Cosmetics face palette because their range is much more expansive. And then the other complaint I have is the price tag. So this palette retails for $54. This is a lovely palette. Granted, the bitch is incredibly big, has a lot of dead space that you really don't need. And I think based on that, they probably could have put it in a smaller palette and saved about $10 to $15. Don't get me wrong, the packaging is fucking stunning, but again, a lot of empty space. You could have made it a little bit cheaper. So I think if this was priced at like $40 and still that's pretty high, I would say like, okay, that's worth it to pick it up. But anything beyond that, it's a little bit too overpriced in my opinion. So in this set, there's also two different brushes. You have a blush and contour brush and then you have a powder brush. The blush and contour brush retail for $41 and the powder brush retails for $42. Both the brushes are very, very soft, synthetic bristles, and they're cruelty free. Honestly, they're okay. They get the job done, but they're not shit your pants amazing. And they keep shedding like motherfuckers. It's alarming. I'm not rough with my brushes by any means, but after I'm done kind of just gently sweeping the product on my face, I find at least 10 bristles glued to my fucking cheek. And that is the thing that really sucks about these. Especially for the high price tag, these shouldn't be shedding as much as they are. If you are interested in getting this collection, I would totally skip out on these two, because you just don't need them. Even the shedding issue aside, I didn't find these brushes to be anything like super fucking amazing. Like they were good, they were fine, but like nothing to write home about. These are kind of the run-of-the-mill brushes and you could probably find them for a hell of a lot cheaper. In my opinion, there's nothing unique about them except that they are absolutely adorable and they fit the packaging. I love this navy blue color, but that's it. I got nothing else to say about it. Like it's skip. Now, last but not least, there is a whole lip collection as well. The lip products are fucking trash. I want to just rip my lips off right now. I'll tell you why. If I could actually go back in time and not purchase this whole collection and just pick up this, I think it would have been fine. I don't know who thinks it's a good idea to create matte lip products that are so drying you start to panic and you think your lips are about to fall off. Fuck this shit. But let's talk about the lip liners first. The one that's worth mentioning is AI. This is a gorgeous dusty pink color that applied beautifully on the lips. It felt somewhat moisturizing, and I think that's where I should have stopped. I think the liner with some gloss is absolute perfection. But when you add the lipstick, it becomes the ninth circle of hell and your life flashes before your very eyes. But before I get into that, let's talk about the other lip liner, which is in the shade Luna. Luna is a little different from AI. It's very, very dry and it's actually quite difficult when you outline your lips. I don't like formulas that tug around your lips. I have very sensitive skin, okay? I'm a bitch when it comes to my skin. You pinch me and I'll start crying. Like, I have very sensitive skin. I do not like products that abuse me, and I feel like this lip liner abuses the shit out of me. When I would outline my lips, it would just tug at the skin. Oh, it was so fucking painful. And unlike AI, I didn't find the formula to be creamy. So when I did actually apply it to my lips, it just felt very dry like cement. Not a fan. Not comfortable whatsoever. If I could shoot this off into space right now, I would. But now adding the lipstick component to it, the lipstick is so fucking dry. Even when you look at it in the tube, you're like, oh God, that's drier than a fucking devil dog. You know what I mean? Like, that's dry. It's drier than any fucking Entenmann's cake. Like, it's just so fucking dry, it hurts my soul. And what is the kicker about this formula is that it actually has a tendency to kind of pill up on the corners of your mouth. So you have like this hard kind of candy bit texture. It's disgusting. I fucking hate it. No, get these away from me. Anyway, as for the shades, I think the shade Taurus is absolutely stunning. It's super, super beautiful. And if it wasn't a more comfortable formula, I would love it. The shade Libra, I am a Libra. And this is like, honestly, I am more offended that this shade would be considered Libra. When I have this lipstick on, it looks like I'm eating out of the toilet. It's like I'm at the Bacchanal buffet of toilets. It's disgusting. I can't fuck with it. So with that said, there are some good moments in this collection, but I don't think buying all of it is necessary. It also comes in this really beautiful box that I thought I had. Nope, I put that in recycling. Never mind. It comes in this beautiful box too. Like, I love the whole presentation of everything. Like I said, in hindsight, I wish I can go back and not purchase the whole collection and just get the face palette. That was probably the best thing out of the whole set. So anyway, I recommend checking the products out when they're on sale. Do not pay full price for it. Now, speaking of Midas Cosmetics, the next product I want to talk about is this lovely palette. Midas recently released a palette with Bianca from Basic Bitch, so congratulations, baby. I'm very, very happy for you. This palette is called Perception. I am beyond fucking obsessed with the palette's packaging. It's absolutely beautiful. I am in love. I love the font type. I love that the text has this secret message revealed feel to it. It's so fucking cool. Midas has been getting better and better with their packaging, and it really just blows me away every time. So for $39, you get 20 shades. 15 of those shades are matte, and the remaining 5 are a shimmer or satin finish. In this video, I'm going to show you 3 different looks that I created with this palette. So let's talk about the mattes first. I kind of feel like there are 2 different formulas. You have the darker mattes that I feel like are incredibly pigmented. A little bit goes a long way. They blend so easily, and I didn't experience any patchiness or longevity issues. Yes, there's some kick up and fallout, but overall very, very easy to clean. To me, the noticeable standouts, in my opinion, are the shades Implode, Restless, and Infinite, which is this guy over here. Those are absolutely fucking fabulous. I don't have a bad thing to say about them, except I want more. I really, really hope that Midas releases like oh god, what's that one palette that I always wanted from Viseart? The dark mattes. I want that with Midas formula. Their darker mattes are so fucking moody and just, perfect. I love it. That said, there are some other shades like the brown ones like Natural and Existence, Dark Matter as well. Those were all fantastic as well. Don't have a bad thing to say about them. Now, when it comes to the neon shades, there's a little bit of a formula difference in my opinion. For example, the shade Life is a fabulous yellow. It's pigmented and it blends beautifully. And the same goes for Kesar. I think that's how you pronounce it. This is a bright neon orange. Fucking love it. Those together make a fantastic combination. But with that said, you have a shade like Fusion, which is this bright pink down here. This one required to be built up. The formula is more on the thinner side, and I found that when layering it over existing shadows, the shadow kind of blends away a little bit, and there's only like an essence of the color remaining. So you have to like keep building it up, keep building it up, keep building it up, but eventually it does work, but it just takes a little bit more hand-holding with that shade. And I felt the same experience with the shade Reality, which is the white shade here. I love a good white matte shade. They are very, very hard to come by. And I was hoping that this one's going to be super pigmented, but this one required to be built up as well. And it was never as bright as I wanted it to be. There's something so beautiful about a white matte shade, and I was just trying so hard to just build it up, build it up, build it up. But I could never get it as opaque enough as I wanted it to be. The other neon shades in this palette were fine. Again, it just required a little bit more hand holding, a little bit more time building up as opposed to the darker mattes. Other than the small performance issue aside, the longevity of these shades were fantastic. And that's what I love about Midas shadows. They last for a very, very long time. Now let's move on to the shimmers. There are 5 shimmers in this palette, and 4 of them are fucking amazing. And before I even gush about them, let's just get the negative out of the way, and that's the shade Deep Space down here. This is the dud of the palette, unfortunately. Deep Space is so different compared to the other shimmers in this palette. In my opinion, is not as emollient as the other shadows. When applied with some glitter glue or just a nice little fingering, the pigment was lacking. When you do manage to get some sort of color on the lid, it didn't wow me. It wasn't super fucking awesome. So I found myself having to cover that shade with an existing shimmer. I was expecting like this really beautiful shimmery or even satin cranberry shadow, but what I got was just very, very flat. But you know what though? It's not the end of the world, because the other shimmer shades in this palette make up for it. The shimmers have a very beautiful duochrome effect that is very sparkly and slutty. I fucking love them. The shift is so evident that you don't need to position your head a certain way to catch it. It's unbelievable. I need another palette that has shimmer shades like this. They applied beautifully with glitter glue, but I will say that the glitter glue did not prevent any glitter bukkake from flying around my face. However, I don't even give a shit because the shifts are so good. These shades provide a very beautiful celestial dimension to the looks. They blended very well. I didn't experience any patchiness, any fading, any difficulty blending. They're fantastic. This is a new formula for Midas, and I really hope that they continue with this formula. I have always liked Midas's shimmers, but these are like some next level shit. I know this palette is currently sold out, which I mean, you know, good for them. But if you are interested in picking this up, I would recommend checking out Midas Cosmetics Instagram page for any latest news about when a possible restock of this palette will be. And I honestly, I really hope that it's soon because this is really fucking cool. So congratulations, Bianca. This is fucking fabulous. And I want to say thank you so much to Midas Cosmetics for sending this palette my way. So the last product I want to talk about is from Lunar Beauty. Ooh. I don't know why it just felt necessary to do a ghost sound, but we're here now. If you are not familiar with Lunar Beauty, this is the brand that Manny MUA owns. I think out of all the influencer brands that have been popping up, Lunar Beauty has always been consistent and a fun brand to watch. Their releases have been exciting and their packaging fucking kills me. Whether it's the Sailor Moon asshole highlighter, Moon Spell, or even the Predator Planet inspired palettes. And I feel like I'm the only one that thinks that, but whatever. Strawberry Dream and Eternal Eclipse. There's something about those two palette designs that just reminds me of the movie Predators, and I love it for that very reason. Anyway, there's always something really interesting and intriguing about Lunar Beauty's releases. Now, Life is a Drag Facelift is the revamped palette of the first palette to ever be released by this brand, Life's a Drag. The initial palette had 14 shades. 6 of those shades were neutral, 2 of the shades were shimmers, and lastly, there were 6 vivid colors in that palette. Now, the new palette consists of smaller pans that feature 21 shades. 14 of those shades are from the original palette, and the remaining 7 are new additions. Now, I never owned the first palette, so I cannot say if the formula is the same or bloopity blop blop. I just can't. However, there are a lot of reviewers out there that have both of the palettes, so of course, I will link down a few below. Definitely go check them out to see if you do have the original palette, whether or not you need the new one. Now with that said, this palette retails for $48, which is the standard pricing for all Lunar Beauty palettes. And this is actually relatively smaller than the original Life's a Drag, which honestly, I enjoy. I think when Life's Drag came out, it was cute, but it was something I didn't need to have. And I never picked it up because she was a big bitch. Granted, I am a big bitch. I like big bitch things. It was like the king size candy bar palettes. It was so fucking long. But I was always intrigued by it because I think I mentioned this in my makeup bingo video or whatever. When I was in Sephora back in the days where we used to swatch things, I remember me and my friend Emily Hanhan went to Sephora and we got to swatch it and we're like, oh shit, like this is really nice. This is really pigmented. And ever since then, I've always kind of thought about in the back of my head, but at the time it wasn't a color story that I gravitated towards. That being said, now that I'm approaching the ripe age of 36 years old this year, my preferences are a little bit different. I think that this is an Anne palette with a twist. You have a mix of warm and cool tone neutral shades on this side, or as I like to call them, the Anne shades. You have 2 shimmers in the middle followed by a glitter topper on top. And then you have 9 colorful shades that can best be described as Anne when she gets invited to a bachelorette party with her and her friends and they're going to a drag brunch.
How naughty.
And I mean that with love, by the way. I like this balance because if I want a neutral look, I can do a neutral look. If I want to have a pop of color, I can have a pop of color. If I want to just look like a fucking cockatoo, I can look like a fucking cockatoo. So I like that there's a mix of colors and it's great for any audience. With that said, there are a few different finishes in this palette. So let's talk about the neutral mattes first. These are great. My only complaint is that I wish there were more cooler tone options. I think there is a better representation of warmer shades, which I'm not mad at, but they're shades that we have already. They're not revolutionary. That aside, it's a solid formula. It's the kind of formula that does require to be built up to get your desired opacity, but they blend effortlessly. I didn't experience any patchiness or difficulty when blending the shades, and I was able to create beautiful gradients with the neutrals. I think the standout shade for me is actually the shade Shady. It's a really beautiful matte black shade. I was very pleasantly surprised with how pigmented it is. And it's the kind of shade that you don't have to layer it on and on and on and on. It has great opacity and it really adds a lot of depth and dimension to your looks without overpowering everything. It's a shade that blends so fucking beautifully with the other colors. I absolutely love it. The shade that I was probably the most disappointed in the neutrals is probably the white shade Cake Face. Kind of much like the Midas one. Like, I love a good white matte shade. They are very difficult to come by. And while I actually like this one a little bit better than the Midas Cosmetics, still not as vibrant as where I want it to be. So while I got it to work, I wanted a little bit more from it. Now let's move on to the colorful mattes. I am pleasantly surprised with this section, especially the colors that border more on the neon side. They have wonderful pigment. And while yes, some of the colors do require to be built up a little bit more, they have excellent longevity. And I enjoyed blending the colors to make more of like a seamless gradient. And I also love the fact that these are the kind of shades that you can layer on top of each other to create different colors. No shade overpowers the next. For example, the shade Pageant Queen. Purples are notoriously difficult to make. That's a solid fucking purple. Campy is also fabulous. That's a really beautiful yellow. And Come On Sis, that's a beautiful Kelly green. I don't have a bad thing to say about the colorful shades. They all operated very much the same. Fucking stunning. Yes, there is some light kick up and light fallout, but overall incredibly easy to clean. And that's what I like about Lunar Beauty's formula, especially when it comes to mattes. No matter what skill level you're at, they are so easy to use. You will always be able to create a solid look. Now, before I jump into the shimmers, there is one other finish that's actually on the colorful side, and that is this guy here, and that's Fishy, and this is a satin shade. So I actually used it on the lid today, but I believe I did 3 looks for this video, and I think in one of the looks I used a lower lash shade, and it's a lower lash shade. It's fine, you know, whatever, like it's okay, it's pigmented, whatever, it does the job. On the lid, it's fucking beautiful. It's so incredibly pigmented. I did use it with a little bit of glitter glue, so I kind of felt like that helped a little bit. In the lash line, it definitely looks a little bit more muted. So I will say, if you use some glitter glue, it's very, very punchy. I love whatever this fucking look I have on. I don't know what the fuck it's called. So anyway, Fishy has become one of my favorite shades in this palette. But now let's move on to the shimmer and glitter topper formula. Actually, I'm sorry, I keep calling them shimmers. They're really foiled shades. And the 2 foiled shades are Beat, which is a foiled peach, and then you have Legendary, which is a foiled gold. These are chunky, 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 chunky bitches. It says best to do your eye makeup first and then your base. Otherwise, it looks like Tinkerbell took a shit all over your face. When it comes to foiled eyeshadows, this is probably not my favorite formula. It's solid, it does the job, but I prefer more of like a smoother formula. That being said, when I did use these shades, I found that they adhere to the eye really well. Especially when I used glitter glue, I didn't experience any spicy butthole, any wrinkly bowl texture, and I also like the fact that I was able to layer both of the shades to create a really nice gradient. You can tell that these two are completely 2 different shades on the eye. And again, for longevity, these were great. They didn't crack, they didn't fade. I didn't get any bukkake sprinkled on my face throughout the day. They were solid. It's just during the application phase, it goes everywhere. Now let's talk about the last shade in this palette, and that's Full Fantasy, and that's the glitter topper here. Fuck me sideways. Seriously, turn me around and fuck me sideways. This is fucking great. When I swatched this initially, I was like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about this. Usually when it's a glitter topper, it always comes out clumpy and messy, and it's usually more trouble than what it's worth. This adhered to the eye so fucking seamlessly. I feel like I'm so aggressive, like so fucking seamlessly, but it really did. Like, it adhered beautifully. It was unreal. It was the perfect amount of sparkles. So perfect, in fact, that I can actually see the color that's underneath the topper. It wasn't some cummy mess, you know what I mean? Some glitter toppers will like clump together and it just looks like somebody just shot a load in your eyes. Not this. This one spreads so evenly. Fucking unreal. And I also appreciate that these little sparkles didn't fly everywhere. I have very, very sensitive eyes, so when it usually comes to glitter toppers, I shy away from it. But this one, perfectly still, which I appreciate because usually glitter particles try to murder me, but not today, bitch.
Not today.
The shadow stayed in place with glitter glue. I hope in the future we get more glitter shades. This is fabulous. I need more. And again, as someone who has incredibly sensitive eyes, this is perfect. So this was a really fun palette. You know, I'm actually kind of happy that I didn't get the original palette and then I got the newer one. I like the addition of the 7 new shades, especially for Full Fantasy. Fuck me up. Yes, please. Anyway, now I want to hear from y'all. Let me know down below if you are interested in picking up any of these items. I do believe that the Carly Bible stuff is still available along with the Lunar Beauty. The only thing that's out of stock currently is the Midas Cosmetics palette. But let me know how you feel about these launches. Did you pick it up? Did you not pick it up? Let me know because I love hearing from you. And with that said, I want to say thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it as always. Feel free to like, comment, hit that subscribe button. It's free, and hit that bell icon for notification of all my future posts. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Patreon. To all my beautiful, wonderful patron bubbies, thank you so much for keeping this delicious, disgusting, filthy, trashy, really trashy garbage boat afloat. I couldn't do it without you, and I love your adorable little delicious faces because I'm just gonna gobble you all up, and you're just gonna have to accept that. It's fine. You're just gonna live in my belly. We'll be one. If you want to know what is currently on my face, along with where to get my merch, my podcast, my boopity blop blop, everything will be listed in the description box below. And I'll see you little Tootsie Pops later. Bye.